Alright guys, you may hear my dogs barking in the background because they're there, but I think I've made one of these videos before, but this is going to be another look at for noobs, how to switch your tires out. And in my case, I have a set of stock wheels with drag radials for the track that I try to keep on the track, but sometimes I'm lazy and I drive them around the street for a week or two. And then I'm switching those out for my street wheels and street tires, which are heavier and bigger and have like, I think 500 tread wear, as opposed to that one is way less. So I want them to last. And what you'll need, obviously, is space, the car, another set of wheels and tires. I like to use, I believe it's called floor jacks. I know some people, use the floor jack and you put jack stands under it. I just use the floor jacks. The extra one is just to keep it in case this one fails. And then the tools, besides those, the equipment, this is it right here. So obviously you need, the keys to get your lugs off. You need an adapter to fit into those keys. And if you can see, this one has different thicknesses, so you can use different keys. Or you could even put one in there. And you need something to crank on it with. So I'm using, this. Yep. And then this is my torque wrench. That's hard to see. It's an old school one though. It is zeroed out though, I promise. It's right at 0. And when I torque my wheels, I usually torque them to 70 foot-pounds. Alright, what's going on, guys? This is Jeremy, and gotten some private messages about wheel swapping. I guess people have noticed that I do switch wheels. And actually I do, and pretty frequently, pretty much like once a week typically, because I have a race set up and I have a street set up, and I usually race once a week majority of the time. But yeah, they've hit me up privately and they've just asked me pretty much how I do it. So yeah, this is the disclaimer right here. So this is going to be a video of me showing you how I do it. This is how I do it with the tools that I have. I know there's probably a better way, but I don't know, it's just how I do it. Alright, so first step, besides getting all the tools and everything ready, if you're looking right here, I'm untorquing, or basically I'm breaking loose the lugs. So on the side of the car that I'm going to jack up first, I'm breaking them loose. And then pretty much in every car there should be an owner's manual that will tell you the jack points for the car. On my car, underneath the side skirts, there's actually little notches that show you where you can put a scissor jack or a jack stand or a floor jack, something like that. And so that's what I was aiming for that jack right there. And this black car jack is the main one. And then the silver one behind it is just the backup in case the black one fails. And if you notice, once I was done jacking up, I actually took you should call it a lever or whatever, I took it off, and that's so that when I'm walking around the car I don't accidentally hit it. So I was just getting it lined up on the notch under the car. And there you go, jacked up, everything's broken loose. Now it's time to completely take the lugs off. And if the lugs are a little hard to take off because the wheel is moving, just do what I'm doing, and like you can brace it with your knee or your leg or whatever. Keep the wheel pretty straight up and down, and it shouldn't put as much pressure. Or you can even move the wheel if you need to get the lugs to start unthreading. There you go, wheels off. Now would be the time to take a look at your tire, make sure there's no nails or metal or anything in it. Okay, and then right here I'm trying to line up the holes with the studs. So when I lift the tire, it'll be a lot easier to just push it straight on. You don't want to, be wandering around trying to find that hole. Yeah, at the beginning of the video, when I was showing you the stuff I was using, if you noticed on the back of my tire, I was facing backwards at us, I had some lettering on the tires. That's actually how I keep track of, what wheels go where, because it says an all-wheel drive car. So for tire rotation as well as for installation, that's how I keep track. So I just used a tire pen marker, and it works really good. Okay, then here you notice I'm actually blowing into lugs. These are open-ended lugs. So I just wanted to make sure that there's no debris or anything messing with the threads when I put them on. And majority of the time I've never had an issue, but one time I must have drove through some wet sandy area or something because I actually had gunk built up in there. So it's not a bad idea to just take a second or two or three to look at your lugs, make sure they are clean. Now I'm just snugging them up. Yeah, don't go crazy on this part, just snug them all up. Go through a sequence, a star pattern. And just make sure that they're all snugged pretty much equally. And the wheel will be flush against the hub. And you see the tire spin. That's the reason why we break loose and why we torque while the car's on the ground, because the wheel will just spin if it's in the air. Alright, so other than torquing, that's one wheel on already. So pretty much what I did, when the car was on the ground, I broke the lugs loose on both sides. I jacked it up. It ain't going anywhere. And from there, I took the lugs out, took the wheel off, put the other one on, and I put the lugs back on. Pretty much do it however you want. But when you tighten it, you want to do a star pattern. But what I did to make it easier was I put one on first, and then I had to actually use the ratchet, and I put it in pretty much all the way, like pretty hand tight, so that pushes the entire wheel all the way back, flush and straight and everything, and then I could just thread the rest of them. Pretty much, you get all of them started, but if you tighten one even more, it pushes the wheel back more, and then the rest of them have slack, so then you have to tighten them up. So pretty much I just kind of went through in a star configuration until pretty much everything was snugged up. So you got to remember that. Like when you tighten one, if all of them are in the same place, and then you go and you crank down on one and you tighten it more, it's going to create slack on the other ones. So you need to make sure you go through a couple times, make sure everything is snug. Okay, and when I say crank down, I don't mean like freaking, like super crazy. You're wanting to snug everything up, so it's all the way back. It's not wiggly, it's not going anywhere, because once you drop the car on the ground, that's when you're going to torque it. You don't want to torque it in the air because the tire moves the wheel, and there's nothing really to brace it against. If you had an impact gun or something, that's different. The wheel will stay where it's at, and you can just zip them off. But by hand, you want to just snug it up, get it on there where there's nothing loose and it's not wiggly, it's solid. And then later on I'm going to drop it and I'm going to torque it on the ground. Alright, so everything is tightened and flush against the car. So now it's time to lower it. So since the, sometimes the pin comes out, it's an old car jack. Alright, so since that's the main one, we're going to drop this one first. It's basically just, it's there for support, that's it. It's not really, you know, I'm not expecting to have to actually use it. Alright, wheels are on the ground. And if you noticed, when I was putting those lugs on, you heard me blowing into them. They're open-ended, so I was just making sure there's no debris in there that can mess with the threading of the lugs. And I also looked at the studs and they look good. And because I change my wheels out like pretty much once a week or so, I don't bother putting any kind of anti-seize or anything on the threads. I don't know, I don't need to. It works fine. And if you're worried about them torquing properly, you know, once you do your wheel swap, you can check it a day later, a week later, every week after that, if you know you're that paranoid. But I've never had a wheel come off, a lug come off, nothing. It's too simple. I've never had an issue, never broken a stud, never broken a lug. So now we're gonna torque. I know this is old school. If I had, you know, one of the newer ones, I'd use it. You just go until you hear a click. So, and it is zeroed out, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't use it. So it's calibrated properly. Yeah. So you can pretty much do anything you want, but typically I try to keep stress, or as much stress off of the locking lug as possible, because that's the one with the special key, and there's like little grooves in it. So like if you'll notice, you know, whenever I first untorque them, I'll untorque that one first, you know, because all the other ones are putting pressure on the wheel. You know, if you do that one last, the wheel's putting pressure on it and then you're trying to screw it off. So I'll do that one first, and then I'll reverse that, and I'll torque everything else, and then I'll do that one last, because everything is, again, pushing against, so it's got slack. Oh, that's just me, that's just a mental thing, I guess. So, like for torquing, if you want to torque it last, you got to make sure that it'll end up in the pattern last. So this is perfect, because you go here, 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 and then you'll torque that one last. And once it's torqued down, I mean, then you can do whatever, because they're all even, pretty much. Sometimes I'll do 2 passes, though. So for first, and you pretty much just, so there's about 70 right there, and then you just do it to the rest. 70, because we did snug them down when it was up in the air, so, I mean, you know, they're not super loose. As you can see, it's not crazy. I'm not, you know, I'm not going banana sandwich with it. I'm just torquing them down. 70. And then, you know, if you want, you can run through again and just make sure it's holding the torque. And you put the pressure on it at that number and make sure that it's not going to give. So as you can see, it's nothing crazy. See how it moved a little bit. But yeah, you just want to make sure that it's holding at its torque. And again, you can even check like a day later or something and make sure, because it will snug up as you drive the car. So that's one right there. So I'll normally go twice through, you know, this side, jack the other side up, switch the tires out, or do 2 on that side. And usually at the very end, when everything, I put all my stuff away, I'll go through one more time and make sure everything's torqued up. yeah, there's really nothing to it. Seventy. 70. Pulling pretty good. Heck yeah. See, on this one, the pattern's different, but they're already torqued down. Alright, so the driver's side is swapped, torqued, and I just switched these out yesterday, so they should have good air pressure. That side's ready to go. So those are on. These are off. Alright guys, fruit of our labors. Wheels are on, torqued, and tire pressure should be good because I took them off yesterday and put them back on today. And they've been good all this time I've been driving on them. While they were off, I checked both sets of wheels and tires. They look good, no nails, screws, glass, which I found all that stuff in there before. I checked, inside the wheel well of everything. Everything looks okay. Might as well while you're down there, right? Everything's all taken off. All the tools and stuff are put away. So all I gotta do is put the wheels inside, put them away, and I'm good to go. I want to thank you guys for watching. Again, this is for complete beginners that want to do it. It looks pretty simple to them, but they just don't know the exact procedure. So hopefully this will give you a better idea.